Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever wondered why certain movements or trends or even, products gain this almost fanatical following?
Yeah.
Why do people seem to just leap from the water, take the bait on some new cause or scheme, even if it looks, well, ridiculous later on?
It really boils down to something fundamental, I think. A basic human truth, this
Hmm.
overwhelming desire to believe in something, anything, really.
Right.
We can't seem to endure long periods of doubt
Hmm.
or that emptiness, that comes from not believing.
Hmm.
So in this deep dive, we're going to explore what you might call the science behind creating that kind of cult-like following.
And we've got some absolutely fascinating stuff to draw on. Insights from Law 27 of the 48 Laws of Power. That's the one about playing on the need to believe.
A classic.
Yeah, and also historical chronicles, stories of famous charlatans, and even this really profound fable that just perfectly shows the danger of, well, blind belief.
So our mission today, really, is to pull out the most important nuggets, how these dynamics actually work, what they tell us about human nature.
And, crucially, how you can spot them, how you can see them operating out there in the world around you.
Exactly, because at its core, this whole thing relies on, well, our inherent gullibility as humans.
Do you think so? Gullibility.
Well, maybe that's a strong word, but people are always in a rush to believe something. We sometimes, manufacture saints and faiths out of almost nothing.
Okay.
And this isn't new. History is just full of chronicles, trends, cults that got massive followings. They often look absurd years later,
Yeah.
but at the time, they felt transcendental, utterly convincing.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Our sources point out that the charlatan's ideal audience isn't like the totally ignorant person.
Right, not the completely uneducated.
No. The illiterate, they say, are often protected by their healthy common sense. They're
Yeah.
actually less susceptible.
Which is counterintuitive, isn't it?
Totally. Instead, the prime targets are what they call the semi-literate or the half-educated,
Mhm.
those who've essentially exchanged their common sense for a little distorted information. What do you make of that?
I think it's a crucial insight. This susceptibility, it gets particularly high during times of big change, big transformation.
Like social upheaval.
Exactly. When the secure foundations of life seem shaken, when old values just couldn't be relied upon anymore.
Right, everything feels unstable.
And it's then, in those moments of uncertainty, that people are sort of predisposed to marvel at mysteries. And that's when the charlatans' dupes multiplied.
Okay, so uncertainty is like fertile ground.
Definitely. And then think about what happens when people gather in a crowd. The whole dynamic shifts again.
How so?
Well, individually, someone might look at a charlatan and think, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I can see that.
But put them in a group setting, they become more emotional, less able to reason things out.
They get swept up.
Totally swept up. Caught in this communal mood of rapt attention, it makes it almost impossible to find fault. And people react really violently if you express doubt.
Wow. So the crowd itself becomes a factor.
A huge factor. The larger the group, the easier it becomes to deceive them. Individual thought just gets diluted, washed away in the emotion.
Okay.
Now, while the actual gimmicks of past charlatans might seem a bit quaint to us now.
Yeah, like alchemy or something.
Right, exactly. But thousands still operate today. In business, fashion, politics, art, you name it. And they're using the same core methods, just, refined.
So there's a playbook.
There's definitely a playbook. Our sources outline a pretty systematic approach, almost step by step.
Okay, so let's dive into this blueprint then. What's step one? How do they start? How do they hook people?
Step one is all about the message. And the core idea is keep it vague, keep it simple.
Vague and simple.
Yes, to grab attention, you want to use words that are kind of hazy and deceptive, not clear actions. Your first communications, they should promise something huge, transformative.
Okay.
But combine that promise with total vagueness.
So it's not about being specific at all. That feels wrong somehow.
No, it works because that combination, it stimulates these hazy dreams in people. It lets them fill in the blanks, make their own connections, see what they want to see.
Ah, okay. So you're tapping into their desires.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Use words with great resonance but cloudy meaning. Words full of heat, enthusiasm. Think about fancy titles, using numbers, inventing new terms for vague ideas.
Right, like jargon.
Yeah, it creates this impression of specialized knowledge, a veneer of profundity, but without actually saying much concrete.
And the subject itself should probably be new, right? So few people really understand it.
That helps. And remember, most people, deep down, They want simple answers to really complex problems. So you have to avoid detailed explanations.
So you lean into things like primitive solutions, country remedies, maybe mysterious panaceas, back to basics kind of thing.
Precisely. Keep it simple, keep it vague, make it sound profound. That's step one.
Okay, so you've attracted an initial crowd with that vague, simple, exciting message. What's next? What's step two?
Well, once people start gathering, you face a new problem. Boredom and skepticism creeping back in.
Right, the initial buzz wears off.
So that's where step two. Emphasize the visual and the sensual over the intellectual comes in. You fight doubt with basically theater.
Theater, like a performance.
Exactly. Surround yourself with luxury, dazzle your followers with visual splendor, fill their eyes with spectacle.
Ah, so it's all about the show, and that
Yeah.
distracts from, like, logical holes in the argument.
Precisely. But it also does more, it attracts more followers. Spectacle draws a crowd. You want to appeal to all the senses. Incense, maybe soothing music, colorful charts.
And I remember reading, you can even use new technology, right? Gadgets.
Oh yeah, that gives it a sort of pseudoscientific veneer, makes it seem cutting edge.
As long as you do not make anyone really think, that's the key part.
That is absolutely the key.
Yeah.
Keep the senses overwhelmed so the brain doesn't engage critically. And don't forget the exotic. Using things from distant cultures, strange customs that creates powerful theatrical effects. It makes mundane stuff seem extraordinary.
So it's about creating this whole sensory experience that just bypasses critical thinking.
You got it. Experience over intellect.
Okay, so you've got them hooked with the vague promises, dazzled by the spectacle. How do you keep them organized? How do you keep them in? Step three.
Right. As the following grows, you need to organize it. But organize it in a way that feels elevating and comforting. That leads straight to step three. Borrow the forms of organized religion to structure the group.
Ah, tapping into religion. That makes sense.
Because organized religions, as our sources point out, they still hold this almost unquestioned authority in many people's minds. You can endlessly exploit those lofty and holy associations.
So you create rituals for your followers.
Exactly. Organize them into hierarchies, maybe degrees of enlightenment. Ask them to make sacrifices for you, vows of poverty, turning over property.
Well-
And crucially, you need to act the part. Talk like a prophet, a guru, a sage, a shaman. Whatever word kind of hides your real power in that mist of religion.
Okay, so you've got them organized, believing, maybe even sacrificing things for the cause. But what about the money? As the group grows, money flows in. That seems like a tightrope walk.
It is a very tricky one. And that brings us neatly to step four. Disguise your source of income.
Disguise it. Ow.
You must never seem greedy, never seem hungry for money. The key is, by surrounding yourself with that luxury we talked about in step two,
Right, the spectacle.
you paradoxically become living proof that your belief system works. Your wealth isn't seen as coming from their pockets.
Ah, it's proof of the method.
Exactly. Make it seem like your wealth flows naturally from the truth of your methods. Their enthusiasm, their desire to imitate your success, it blinds them to the charlatan nature of how you actually got rich.
So it's not about hiding the wealth, it's about reframing where it comes from. That's clever. Devious, but clever.
Yeah.
Okay, one final step then. Step five. You've got them hooked, dazzled, organized, paying. How do you keep the group cohesive? Prevent boredom or, people drifting away?
That's where step five. Set up an us versus them dynamic is crucial. You need unity and you need energy.
Us versus them, like insiders and outsiders.
Exactly. First, you make sure your followers truly believe they're part of an exclusive club, unified by common goals. Special.
Okay, builds loyalty.
Then, to really strengthen that bond, you manufacture the idea of a devious enemy who's out to get you, to ruin the group,
An enemy, even if there isn't one.
especially if there isn't one. Any outsider who tries to expose you tries to reveal the truth. They can immediately be labeled as part of this evil opposing force.
So if you don't have real enemies, you just invent one, a straw man.
Precisely. That straw man gives your followers something to react against. It tightens their cohesion like nothing else.
Wow. So now they have a cause to believe in and they have infidels to destroy.
It's an incredibly powerful unifying force. Creates passion, focus, and deflects any internal criticism.
Okay, this blueprint is chillingly effective. Let's look at some real-world examples. How did this play out historically? First up, Francesco Giuseppe Borri, 17th century Milan.
Ah, Borri. A classic case study.
Yeah.
This guy apparently went from a life of serious debauchery
Okay.
to suddenly becoming a mystic after supposedly having a vision of an archangel. It just shows that appeal of the romantic, the otherworldly.
So he claimed he could see souls, promised the Philosopher's
Oh,
Stone,
the big ones. And he used his sheer enthusiasm, his charisma, to build a following. Very step one.
and he followed the rest of the blueprint too, right? Structured his cult, demanded vows of poverty.
Oh, yeah. 6 degrees of discipleship.
Yeah.
Strict vows of poverty for his followers
Yeah.
while he amassed their wealth.
Which he said was proof he was about to discover gold. Step 4, right?
Exactly. His luxury was proof of his method. And when the Inquisition came after him,
What happened?
he just maintained this dignified silence, which only made him seem more mysterious, more powerful. His followers even started calling the Pope the Antichrist.
No.
Yep. He became famous without ever actually doing anything concrete. He just hinted at things and let people's imaginations run wild.
So the lesson there is, people don't want the boring truth about hard work. They want angels and magic.
It seems so. The takeaway seems to be, aim high. The bigger and bolder your illusion, the better. Don't be afraid to promise the moon.
Okay. If you're gonna lie, make it a magnificent angelic lie. Wow. All right, let's move on. Dr. Michael Schuppach, the mountain doctor, mid-1700s, Switzerland.
Schuppach's interesting because he built his cult around nature-based healing. Very clever.
How so?
Well, just getting to him was part of the cure, almost. Patients had to trek through these dramatic landscapes to his village. But by the time they arrived, they already felt changed by the journey itself.
The setting helped. Step 2, the theater.
Definitely. And his cures weren't like the foul-tasting Latin stuff doctors gave back then. They had sweet names, appealing names like the oil of joy.
Nice branding.
Very. And he cultivated this air of simple country wisdom, claimed he could tell everything from analyzing urine.
Which sounds vaguely scientific.
Right, a bit pseudoscientific.
Yeah.
And he used things like electric shock machines, but framed them as natural phenomena.
Well,
He even staged things, like this trick with a hay wagon.
hey, wagon.
Yeah, to make patients believe they'd physically expelled their illness. It was pure showmanship, designed to engage their belief.
So he understood how to harness the placebo effect, basically. Make people believe so strongly they imagine getting better.
Exactly. But he made himself the agent of the transformation, not their own will. And it shows the power of belief in nature, too, which is often this kind of constructed myth, this romantic idea.
Right.
But you can wield that very powerfully if you make nature itself seem theatrical and delightfully pagan.
Okay, harnessing existing romantic notions. Got it. Final historical figure, Franz Mesmer. Animal magnetism, late 1780s Paris. This sounds like pure spectacle.
Oh, it absolutely was. Mesmer had been kind of ridiculed in Vienna, so he moves to Paris and just goes all out, transforms his apartment into this magical world.
How? What did he do?
Imagine. Stained glass, mirrors everywhere, specific scents like orange blossom filling the air, harp music playing softly, and in the center, this big tub, a magnetized container filled with water and iron rods sticking out. Total sensory overload. Step 2, on steroids.
Wow. That is pure theater, and people touch the rods.
Yeah, they were told to connect with the rods and connect with each other, holding hands, forming circles. It often led to this group hysteria, this mass autosuggestion.
And Mesmer himself.
He'd make a grand entrance, dressed in this flowing silk robe, looking mystical. He'd walk around, touch people, supposedly channeling the animal magnetism to soothe the delirium he'd helped create.
It just perfectly shows how that group dynamic, that warmth and infectiousness just breaks down individual doubt.
Absolutely. And even though the official medical faculty condemned him, he got a massive following. Even Marie Antoinette was supposedly a believer.
Incredible.
And he expanded his theories, claiming he could bring all of humanity into harmony. That really resonated during the revolutionary times in France. It shows the power of mixing religion with science, you know?
Yeah, blending the latest trend magnetism back then with some noble cause or mystical belief.
Exactly. The ultimate lesson from Mesmer, maybe, is about playing on people's repressed feelings, their excitement. That energy gets mistaken for your mystical power.
And that gives you untold power. You become the magnet.
You become the magnet, drawing and holding their imaginations. An invisible force. Very seductive, as you said.
Okay, but there's a dark side to this, isn't there? A peril.
Oh, absolutely. Our sources are very clear on this. The charlatan lives in constant danger of being seen through, found out.
And if that happens?
If the group realizes they've been duped, they turn. Fast. They become an angry crowd that will tear you to pieces as avidly as it once followed you. The love turns to hate very quickly.
So that's why those historical charlatans were always ready to skip town. When the magic elixir didn't work,
Exactly. You had to constantly keep an eye out for any sparks of doubt. Use spies, maybe, and keep your bags packed. Always.
Because playing with crowd emotions means you have to react instantly or vanish.
Or vanish. An interesting alternative, though, that some sources mention is focusing on individuals instead of crowds.
Why is that safer?
If you isolate someone from their normal life, their friends, their family, they become much more prone to suggestion, to intimidation. And crucially, it's a lot easier to escape one angry sucker if they figure you out than it is to escape an entire mob.
Makes sense. Less risk. There's also that fable, right? The owl who was God.
Yes, a fantastic illustration of this collective credulity. This owl just sits there, answers a few simple questions, looks wise in the dark.
And everyone starts thinking he's a god.
Pretty much. Until a red fox and some friends start asking awkward questions like, "Can you see in the daytime?"
And the crowd.
Drives them out.
Yeah.
Accuses them of heresy. The moral is stark. You can fool too many of the people too much of the time.
And the ending is grim, isn't it?
Very grim. The whole group, believers and the owl included, end up getting killed by a truck they refuse to acknowledge because their God didn't warn them. It's a really sobering story about the danger of that kind of collective delusion.
Wow. Just refusing reality.
And the charlatan's great power, ultimately, it comes from just giving people permission, opening a door for them to believe what they already want to believe deep down.
Like great Dave Francesco said, the credulous cannot keep at a distance, surrendering themselves to illusion, like cattle.
That's harsh.
It is harsh, but it captures that passive surrender, and Machiavelli, of course, had his take.
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
Men are so simple of mind and so much dominated by their immediate needs that a deceitful man will always find plenty who are ready to be deceived.
It's a timeless observation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Still true today.
It absolutely feels that way. This whole deep dive, it really reveals this profound human vulnerability.
Yeah.
And it's not about intelligence, not really. It's about that deep-seated need for belief
Yeah.
that can just override critical thinking, especially when we're in a group. So what does all this mean for you listening right now? We've seen how these cult-like followings get forged, right? It's this mix of human gullibility, maybe that need to believe, plus theatrical display, borrowing religious rituals, hiding the money motives, and creating enemies, us versus them.
And these aren't just stories from history books. These are blueprints. They're actively used today in different forms. Marketing, politics, social movements. You see echoes of this everywhere.
So the big question this raises, I think, is, in a world just saturated with information, competing stories, how do we tell the difference? How do we spot genuine insight versus calculated manipulation?
Yeah, and how do we cultivate that healthy common sense the sources talked about?
Yeah.
The thing that supposedly protects the truly ignorant. How do we hang on to that even when we're not ignorant, when we have access to lots of information?
That's the real challenge, isn't it? How do you keep from becoming that semi-literate prey? How do you avoid getting swept up in the crowd's emotional tide? It's definitely something worth thinking about, something to mull over, long after this deep dive ends.